how to remove a charge off of your credit reports if it's still maintained by the original creditor or if a debt collector purchases that charge off. I'm going to explain to you exactly what a charge off is. There's a lot of misconceptions about what a charge off actually is. And also, as a bonus, I'm going to talk about charge offs when it comes to you. You're watching this video because you want to get something out of it. So what I want you to do is to imagine, what are you trying to get out of watching this video? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the answers exactly for the way that you're thinking about it right now. That might sound crazy because you're like, Steve, I'm not in front of you. How can you do that? Well, I'm about to say something that's going to pique your interest, and it's probably going to kind of rub some of you the wrong way, depending on what level of awareness you are with dealing with your credit. Because the bottom line is that you are watching this video to get to a certain level with your credit. You want to rebuild it. You want to get to get to that good credit status. And obviously with removing charge-offs, you're watching this video because of that. But let me tell you something. This might rub some of you the wrong way, but this is going to be the truth, is that a charge-off is not just a charge-off. There's a story behind that charge-off. And until you can deal with that story, it's going to make it very difficult for some of you, not all of you, but for some of you to be able to move forward. So if you have been struggling with your credit for a long period of time, there are some things that you got to deal with, just like a relationship where some people will be like, well, I'm going to get with a new person. And then when you get with that new person, all of a sudden, it's like they're the older person, the other person that you didn't get along with. Or you go to a new job and you think, I'm going to be around all these new people in this new job. And all of a sudden, it seems like some of those people are the same people that you dealt with. The same thing can happen with your credit. And I see this a lot when we talk to clients and we try to get these, we ask them these questions to kind of raise their awareness. Some of the times they resist because they're like, what does this have to do with getting my credit repaired? It has a lot to do with it, because when you say you want to get your credit repaired, and then we ask a question like, tell us what's going on with your credit. And then you'll say like, I have, I want to fix my credit. I messed up. I got some charge-offs, some collections, some late payments. Let me tell you something. This is what you actually mean. This is what you mean. And because we as humans, we condense what we go through to this little bitty thing, like a little short answer, when it's really like this. It's really this big. Your answer would be this big, but we don't want to say it because we don't want to throw our life on, out there and like crying to people and all of that stuff. But for yourself, this is something that we tell our clients to do. And what I teach on my videos is that these are some things that you can do for yourself to work on yourself, and then allow us to work on your credit. Because if you work on yourself, the credit stuff is it's gonna all come together. It's gonna stop you from going backwards. So this is what you actually mean. Stick with me on this. This is gonna probably be one of the most important videos that you've ever watched from me when I explain this to you. So what you actually mean is, I lost my job. Some of you might have lost your job during a certain period of time. And you might say, I lost my job, but what did you go through? What were the feelings that you went through when you lost your job? Did you get depressed? Did you just say, I just can't pay it anymore? Like, there's some feelings in there that you experienced, and you got to deal with those feelings to be able to move forward, or you're going to move for a couple of steps forward and then you're going to always go backwards. You got to deal with those. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe you just have a problem with overspending. What these answers will do is it'll help you become aware of things that you got to work on for yourself. And when you work on those things for yourself, everything starts on the inside. And when you work on yourself on the inside, the stuff on the outside starts to look different. It starts to materialize in the way that you want it to materialize. Until you deal with what's on the inside, everything, every solution, every option. It might look good, and then all of a sudden it turns back into the disappointment that you expected. And the reason why the disappointment that you expected is because on the inside you didn't make those changes. So you could have been an overspender. You kept taking credit cards when you knew you shouldn't have been taking credit cards. What are you going to do to stop that? What are you going to do? You lost your job. What are you doing now to recoup, to rebound from that? You got divorced. What are you doing for yourself to rebound from that divorce? And you're overspending. What are you doing to fix your overspending? Don't know how to handle your money well. What are you doing to fix the problem that you have with handling your money? Because you can get your credit fixed, and if you got a problem handling your money, you're going to be right back in that same situation. We have clients that have had that same problem before. What about you got involved with a business opportunity that you saw online, and you maybe got a loan, or you let someone talk you into stacking credit cards to be able to get the money to be able to do that business, and then the business didn't work out. What are you doing to deal with that? So let's move on to the next screen here. So what is a charge-off? There's a lot of misconceptions about a charge-off. So I want to clear it up for you with what is a charge-off. A charge-off is an account that is non-performing. So what is a non-performing account? That's an account. So you have an account and you stop paying on that account. The companies, the corporations, or whoever has that account, if it's a private company, whatever it is, they can, if they have investors or even for themselves, they can't lie and say, well, that account is bringing in payments every month. They can't lie and do that, especially for corporations. Now, if it's a private owned company, all it's doing is just letting them know where their business is currently, saying that this is a group of non-performing accounts, this is a group of performing accounts, so we can see what our revenue is. That's all that is. So depending on what type of account you have, credit cards is 6 months, automobiles 3 months, but there are some automobile loans that will charge off within 30 days, 30 to 45 days. It's depending on the company. Yes, they are actually doing that. It used to be 3 months, but there's some that'll do that. What they're doing when they do that charge off, they're just putting it on record that this is a non-performing account. We are not receiving payments on this account. And you might be saying, well, Steve, I had a vehicle and then they charged it off and I'm still making the payments on it. That they did that because they're taking, with their risk assessment, is that they're thinking that they're going to end up having to repo that car, and they wanted to take the security off of the car. They do this in a sneaky way, but what they're doing when they charge off that account for you, when they charge it off, they're actually taking that security off of that vehicle. And so that means that if you stop making your payments, they're going to still go after you for the money on that. They're going to come and swipe the car fast and easy without having to go through and do all the paperwork to make it a charge off. They just, in a way, hedging their bet on that the individual won't continue paying. That's just what I see. I know it's not supposed to be that way, but that's what I see. And I'm only going off of what I see when individuals call us and they say that I got my car back and they still put it as a charge off on my credit. It hurt my credit because it looked like it's a charge off, but I'm paying on it. There's certain things that you could do to correct that, but it's going to stay on there as a charge off, but you would be able to have it marked that you're paying that account. It'll say charge. It's weird. It's weird and strange, but this is the way that it would be. It would be charge off, and it would actually have payment history. And it is crazy how that will show, but you can also tell them to remove it because it's not technically a charge off if you're making those payments on there. But some of the companies, they'll fight back and forth with that. So let's talk about one of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have. I see a lot on YouTube is that some people believe that when the creditor charges off the account, and they send that to the IRS, or not even thinking that they send it to the IRS, they just think that once it's charged off that they're getting paid. That is not true. And then when they write it off to the IRS, a lot of people believe that they're getting paid, and that's not true. They're not getting paid. They are getting that write-off though. So let me explain real quick. When a business, let's just say a business, let's just say that that business loaned someone, let's just say they loaned them $10,000. And then that person didn't pay the $10,000 back. So what they could do is they could send that to the IRS. Hey, we have a write-off of $10,000. They get that for dollar, a $10,000 write-off. Now, what that's going to actually do for them is allow them to write off $10,000 of income that they got. And it's going to be on percentages. I own a business, and I've had this happen. I own a marketing company, and there's been some businesses that just went out of business, didn't pay. And we did the write-off. You don't get $10,000 worth of write-off. It's going to be like a percentage of that write-off that actually goes towards what you owe in with your taxes. But you will be able to write that total amount off, but the percentage is going to be, taken off different on what you owe. But they're writing that off on other money that they got, that they did collect from people that they would have had to pay taxes on. They're not getting a $10,000 credit for the money that they did not collect. So that's a common misconception that a lot of people have. They're thinking, a lot of people have people thinking that the companies are getting that money. The fastest way to understand how this works is if you have a business and someone doesn't pay you and you report it to the IRS, and you will see for yourself that you don't get a $10,000 credit. And then also when you do the write-off, you don't actually get $10,000 worth of write-offs. I do my taxes. I see my taxes done, and I know for a fact I've been doing business taxes for 35 years. So now let's talk about what can happen from a charge-off. So the original creditor, if they keep it, they can sue you and collect on that debt, even though they did a charge-off. But they do have to hire a debt collector. They can't come after you themselves for the debt. Some companies can do it. It depends on the state that you live in. I've seen some companies where their legal department would reach out, but I would say like 99.9% of the cases, they have to get a company to represent them, and it's going to be a debt collection company, or they could just sell it to a debt collector. And so now let's deal with what happens if they sell it to a debt collector, because ultimate goal is we want to get this stuff removed. So if the creditor maintained the debt, the first thing that you should look at is the statute of limitations. Depending on your state, in some cases, remember, that's why I did that little breakdown at the beginning, because some of you had issues that happened in the past with original creditors that still maintain your debt. And that story, remember I said, you want to get that charge off removed, and you're thinking of it like this. But there was a long story that was in between there about what had actually happened. And that's where the statute of limitations would come into play. Because maybe this happened during COVID. Maybe this happened years ago. Maybe it happened when you got divorced. And they didn't come after you for whatever their reasons is, that's up to them. But if they didn't come after you before the statute of limitation expired in your state, they cannot collect on that legally. Now, they can contact you and see if you want to pay on it, but legally, they can't take you to court. They can't force you to pay it. They can't garnish you. They can't take money out of your bank account. They can't do none of that stuff. If it's not past the legal statute of limitations, and the reason why I said that earlier, remember I said that stuff is going to come back. We're going to go full circle with what I talked about earlier in the video. The things that you went through, if you want to change and not end up taking some steps forward and taking some steps backwards, remember, you got to change from the inside first so you can see the differences on the outside, have that materialize. So then the next thing that you can do is you can contact them to settle that debt, because you're trying to resolve this so you can move forward, so that picture of everything that you want your life to be can start to materialize. And to be able to materialize, you already understand what happened, you know, your different reasonings. Everybody has things that we all go through, but you got to deal with them also. And if you want to deal with them to be able to move forward, to get that charge off removed so you can get your credit to where you want it to be, you're going to have to change the way that you deal with some stuff. And the next thing that you do is to contact them about doing a debt settlement. And then if you're not able to do it, you know, whatever you went through that got you into that situation, if you're still experiencing that hardship, maybe you had medical, something happened, family, whatever it is, whatever happened with you, then you can propose to the original creditor, if they still got the debt, a hardship consideration. Now, if you do this with a settlement, you can get it paid for less, and it's not going to hurt you. And then later you can come around and get the charge-off information removed. If you do this, it's going to be paid. If they do a 1099-C cancellation of debt, it's going to be paid, and then you'll be able to get that removed on there. You'll be able to or they can just put paid in full, because they're going to put that whole amount to the IRS that you owe, and then you'll be able to write that amount off. But they're going to send that 1099-C to the IRS, so they either need to remove it or just put paid, because they're going to put that whole amount as income to you. The next thing is statute of limitations. If it hits a statute of limitations, now there's two statute of limitations. Statute of limitations to be on your credit, and statute of limitations for being able to collect the debt. You have a 7-year on your credit reports if you do nothing about it. 7-year statute of limitations, negative or positive information. Statute of limitations to be able to collect on that debt. If the debt cannot be collected, then you got to notify them that they need to cease all collection activities coming after you for that debt. And then when you get that acknowledgement letter from them, you use that to the credit bureaus to get that information removed off your credit reports. So now let's move forward to dealing with it if a collection agency purchases your debt. If a collection agency purchases your debt from the original creditor must mark that paid. At a minimum, they can put paid for less, or they can remove it. And you need to notify them of that. This is something that they don't want people to know about. But technically, if they settle the debt with you, paid for less, that they would put that on there. They wouldn't say it was paid by you for less. They would just say it paid for less, because it's just about the account. It's not who pays the account. Your uncle could have paid it for less. They don't put your uncle paid his account for less or her account for less. No, they don't put that on there. They just say paid for less. So if a collection agency buys a debt, they sell the debt for whatever they want to sell it for. That's their decision. They just have to put on your credit reports accurate information. So they need to change that charge off to paid for less. So they can keep it as a charge off, but it needs to be marked as paid for less. That's going to automatically boost your scores when they do that, because they accepted that. Yes, it's going to take some back and forth with that original creditor to get them to acknowledge that. You can even send them the documents that you received from the collection agency showing them, hey, you sold this debt. You need to mark it paid for less, or just remove it. Whatever you want to do, but you need to pick from the three. Pick from the three. We want them to remove it, but if they say paid for less, or even mark it paid, you never know what they might mark on there. All three of those can help you. And you got to go back and forth with that. Now, the next thing, if they sell it to a debt collector, we always want to still check the statute of limitations. There are debts that are still being sold to this day that are past the legal statute of limitations to collect. There are still lawsuits that are actually being filed by the CFPB, because reason why is because people don't know their rights when it comes to debt that's past legal statute of limitations. Statute of limitations counts like this. If the debt is from the last payment, look at your state so you can see when that debt was paid off from the last payment date, not from the charge-off date, from the last payment date. Next thing is you need to do a full debt validation. The contract, for you want to see what the portfolio was sold for. What did they sell that portfolio for? They're not going to tell you the amount, but you want to see the contract that they purchased that portfolio. And some of the things that you want to look at on there. You want to look at this on there. With that portfolio, make sure that that debt collector purchased that debt. Make sure that the dates and everything match on there. Because some of the times a portfolio company purchases, then they'll sell it to another debt collector, then it's sold to another debt collector. Make sure that the original creditor gave permission for them to be able to sell the debt. Some of the times, and this happens with Credit One Bank a lot, they say that you cannot buy the debt and resell it to another debt collector. They have to collect on it, or they have to give it back to the original creditor. Reason why is because they don't want any repercussions from what any of those debt collectors could potentially do with that debt. Because remember, it's going to still have the name of that original creditor attached to that. So if they break any rules, any laws, it's going to make headaches for that original creditor. Next thing is the conformity documents. When they buy debt, they have to go through this conformity. If you ever get sued, you'll see this. They'll put that in there. It says that the documents, we did this right, we did that right. All of the stuff it conforms to what is appropriate for buying debt and being able to go after people for that debt. It's called a certificate of conformity. You want to see that to make sure that they followed all those instructions that they're supposed to do when they buy debt. This is just when they buy debt. We're early in the game, even before they even try to sue. This is stuff that they give to people when they start to sue. Next thing is the accounting of the balance. They don't even expect you to ask for a full accounting of the balance. How did you get to that amount? They're going to try to do these a couple of statements. Some of the times they may get all of the statements. It does not matter. You want to get all of that because this is preparing you to either be able to do a settlement or to have them be able to drop it because they didn't get all of the information to prove the amount that they're claiming that you owe. The next thing is to have an attorney review. Some people say, well, Steve, why do you want to have an attorney review? If the debt collection company has it, obviously the attorney for that debt collection company reviewed the case. No. Think about it this way. If you've ever called a debt collection company and they'll say this is a non-attorney representative that's talking about your case, they say that for a reason, because if an attorney reviews it, that attorney must follow that case. They have to, or that file, they have to follow it, because what they're doing is they're signing off saying that everything, all of the information, everything has been reviewed by them and it is 100% accurate. That's what that is just the rule. So you'll see a lot of times where when you try to get to talk to an attorney, they don't want to talk to you. They want you to deal with the reps, because if they start to talk to you, they have to continue talking to you. They might have someone that can transfer some documents through their office, but they have to continue talking to you. So they're going to always push away and avoid talking to you until they're really ready to settle on that case. That's when they might talk to you, but before that, they're going to just keep pushing you to the reps. So you want to get an attorney, tell them, hey, did an attorney review this? You know, your firm has it. Did an attorney review it? And you'll be surprised. A lot of debt collection demand letters will get, it'll just shut it down. Like they'll say, we're going to cease coming after you, because what you've done is you've taken like proactive actions to let them know, hey, if you try to take this to court, you're already on record. And if you can't get these necessary documents, and there's other ones, I didn't even go through the whole list here. If you can't even get this here, you can't even really move forward. We're going to shut this down even earlier in a response to the court, because there's certain documentation that you have to even be able to proceed. But they get away with this all the time because people don't know their rights. Get away with it all the time because people don't know their rights. So now, getting that information removed, once you have all of this, if they send back a letter saying that they're going to cease all collections, obviously you use that to get that information removed off your credit reports. If they have it on that charge off on your credit reports, you're going to use that on the original creditor. That's where you can, if the original creditor placed it on there, maybe they put paid for less because you worked on them for that, then this debt collector purchased it, they have it on your credit reports, you're going to use that information to get it off your credit reports, and then you're going to use that information to also get it removed, the original creditor's information. Instead of having it pay for less, you're going to get it all the way removed. So you're going to have dealt with the debt collection company and the original creditor. So that is exactly how you can get a charge-off removed. We do that all the time here at the Credit Repair Shop. It takes work. So don't be, I don't want you to get any misconception about this. It takes work. And dealing with it, if we deal with it for you or you deal with it for yourself, you still got to go through that process of being honest with yourself about why you got into that situation, because that's going to help you be able to utilize the tools to be able to get you out of that situation. It's going to allow you to be able to accept the tools to be able to get you out of that situation. So just to explain that a little bit, just in case, I want to make it clear. If you want to have good credit again, and you have a collection that is validated, everything has been shown on it, what would be your logical tool, logical option to deal with that? It would be settlement. We've had people who would say, I want to get my credit repaired, but they're not willing to utilize the tools to get their credit repaired. And the reason why is because they haven't changed on the inside and got real with themselves about why they got into that situation. And if you really want to have good credit, excellent credit, you want to get to the credit level that you want to be at, you got to deal with yourself on the inside, and then you got to utilize the tools to be able to help you get there. But most people won't use the tools. Well, not most, I apologize for saying most. Some people won't utilize the tools because they're sitting there holding themselves back because they're not honest about why they got into that situation. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at creditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you early, I just talked about it right here. Grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations letter, debt validation letter, cease and desist collection activities letter. You do not need to do a debt validation if the debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Any debt collector is going to go straight with that. And original creditors might do a little bit of back and forth, but when you prove it by showing them what the state law is for your state, because these are 50 state corporations. So, but when you prove it to them for your state, might be a little bit of back and forth, then they'll end up doing it. Thank you for your time. Please post your questions and comments. Subscribe to the channel. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com.